call to order this meeting of the Franklin Tourism Commission and start by taking a roll call. Ed Hopler.
Here.
Jeff Kadersky. Sean Marefka.
Both were excused.
Mark Wiley.
Here.
And Barbara Wessner.
Here.
It is now 4 minutes after 6, and I'd like to open up the citizen comment period. So, have any? Yes.
I'm Anna Damsky, and I've got Mira Kresovich with us. We are from obviously the Franklin Civic Celebration Commission. We run the Independence Day celebration. This year, we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally, we have the parade just before Christmas. With the last 2 years, that fluctuating and the cold and lack of participation, we're going to kind of set aside for right now and see if we can try something different, and we're going to do a maker's market. Day after Thanksgiving, or nothing, Saturday after Thanksgiving. So it'll be November 25th. We're going to start like about noon.
11
noon-ish.
to 5.
And we're going to have it opened up to vendors, crafters, high-end crafters,
Artists.
A little bit of everything that can sell their wares. We're going to put it up here by City Hall. We're going to have some food trucks. We're going to collaborate with the Historical Society as well, and they're going to be putting on like a live performance throughout the day.
Library.
Christmassy type thing. The library as well.
So it'll be all in this area between the parking lot here at City Hall and the library?
Hopefully everything up front, with the exception of Historical Society in the back.
Library. So the goal is we don't want to shut any streets down. We want to keep the streets open so people can come and go to where they want. And it actually helps with our costs too, because then we don't have to worry about police and overtime and everything else.
Yeah.
So that's a win-win on our side. We're coming to you guys to see if, number one, you would collaborate with us as far as advertising and maybe getting the word out there and helping us to spread that around, not only the community, but I can't tell you how many people with the parade last year had no clue a parade was going on. You know, we got signs everywhere, but we kind of want to get out to that bigger demographic out there, to all the people who go to all these type things. And another thing is if we're going to have high-end people, they're coming in from all areas. So it's not just from the city of Franklin or Milwaukee. They're coming in from some potentially Canada, some from Washington, Virginia, anywhere
California.
around.
So Chris Kittle Market in the Deer District canceled. So I'm trying to see if some of the more, I'll say local, meaning not Europe, vendors would be interested in coming over. You know, I figure invite them, but we've got quite a few from different states. We don't have anybody we didn't ask yet because we're still trying to finalize the details with everybody. It's just been informal.
So the second reason we're asking is there any way to get any type of maybe an incentive for these people that are coming in from out of town to stay here, stay at the Hampton or in Franklin with us? Like Black Friday discount or something, a percentage off possibly, and then we could still be advertising and telling them where to come and stay. So it's kind of a scratch my back, I'll scratch, so to speak.
Right.
I was hoping maybe if there was some relief the Tourism Commission could give to Franklin hotels if they're housing or, you know, being hosts for the vendors that are coming in. And it would be, because it's 11 to 5, I'm assuming if they're coming, like there's somebody from Alberta, I don't think that person's going to want to arrive Saturday morning.
Yeah.
So maybe Friday night.
So just a couple quick questions. First, Have either one of you just reached out officially to the Tourism Commission, maybe through John, or, I'm just asking, because it sounds like it looks like you're
Unofficially?
looking for maybe some sort of either support in information that the commission might have of the tourism assets in town, or the hotel connections, or
Little
are
above.
you just sort of announcing
All of
this
the
now
above.
and
May I speak?
Sure.
So I'm Laura Nelson. I'm with Engage Franklin. So the Tourism Commission has partnered with some event companies just so Farm YB answer partner leave the commission if they want this to happen out of the budget that they've given Engage Franklin. We're happy to work with that. We're happy to negotiate rates, and donate some dollars for you to help offset the cost.
Wonderful.
And I just wanted to make sure that I understood where you were in sort of the
Yeah.
communication process, because then we can sort of route you to the right, to Laura in the right area to
No, and as I was listening, I was thinking this would be a prime opportunity for Engage Franklin. And that's part of what Engage Franklin was formed for, to do this
We'd
thing.
be thrilled to work.
And
Okay.
in fairness, not a lot of people know about Engage Franklin yet.
That's right.
Right.
So
Right.
that's,
Yeah.
we're struggling with that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Relational.
Absolutely. And it's what we
I know.
exist to do. Is
Yes.
to assist with people like you who bring people out of the area, unique opportunities. Experience.
And I'd like to, when I'm contacting, especially people that are further away, to mention that we haven't free sell it.
And this date is it's November 25th, did I hear that right?
Correct.
It's the
Yes,
Saturday
so-
after Thanksgiving.
Okay, that would be a good time to be talking about hotels, about business in Franklin, so
Yeah.
that
Right,
would be
right.
much appreciated.
Okay. Awesome. Well, good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was getting all excited. I don't know, but if you
Is there anybody else that would like to speak during the citizen comment period? All right. It is now 6:11. I'd like to bring the citizen comment period to a close and move on to the draft minutes approval from the April 19th meeting.
You don't have those in your packet. You did get them sent to you in the mail. That's.
Yeah. Do we need,
As I read them, I thought they were fine. I thought they were accurate.
Motion?
entertain a motion?
Second.
In a second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next agenda item, the Car Collective Tourism Market and Messaging R&D update.
Good evening.
Hi.
It's good to meet you. Everyone else here, I just want to say hi. I'm Eric.
Hi, Eric.
Pleasure.
Lance, nice to meet you.
I think we've explained an email or two, but thank you for having me. And thank you again to everyone on the commission for the opportunity to dive into this project, which has been personally really fulfilling. And we're not done yet, but it's been, the students have enjoyed it as well. We're a collaborative with Marquette University. We've got more work to do, and I'll explain a little of that in a second. But I think it's been informative as well, and it'll be, I think, very insightful reading for you all once we deliver our final report in June. So I won't take much of your time. I want to provide an update. I will be back. All right. I'll be back again in June. If you do have a meeting over the summer in June, we can talk about a July meeting too. I think the plan is to deliver this towards the end of June. But here's the update. And just remind you what we're working on. This hasn't changed, and it's going to be a mix of anecdotal and data-driven insights, recommendations from that, key messages, qualitative, quantitative efforts, and we're already well on our way in both areas. That will help you be better at what you do, help Laura be better at what she does, make literally from the words being used potentially to talk about Franklin to where you're playing, where you're not playing. I mean, she obviously brings a wealth of experience with Engage Franklin. I think through this effort, I hope even Laura's learning something about and making connections too, and has been a part of what we've done as well. So I think that's, if anything, what comes of this is there's some aha moments, I think, for some folks even on this commission and others, and connections being made through the efforts that we're undertaking. So here's some of the efforts we've done. So we held 2 focus groups, and I'd call it very successful in different ways. A small group, we had 3 people on May 1st, including Barbara was there as well. We had Freddie. I'll say Freddie. Freddie from Croatian Soccer was there. Laura was there as well. We actually ended up talking to the general manager of Lux Golf for a little while as well. We had a much larger group on the Thursday when we had 10 to 12 around the table at the Polish Center. Both great discussions, actually. It was working with Freddie alone was just really insightful, and we'll talk about a little bit what we learned. You'll see more of that in the final report, but this is an example of kind of what's happening here across the city that maybe you didn't know about, and also many great insights on the 4th as well. I'll talk about a few of these in a second. Again, some of the attendees of these 2 mayors stopped by with the second one. We appreciate that. We've had commission members engage. Franklin, Laura, I mentioned with the both. Thank you. Both. Yes, thank you. And welcome to join this. I will send you the invite for the one next week I'll talk about. Both hotels represented in the 4th. I talked separately with Jeff Sensen at Hampton, and I'll be talking separately with Vicki as well. So we've had some good representation, but there's some people missing we'll talk about in a second. But I think really interesting insights, information from that. I mentioned another focus group. We pledged this. We just sent out invites today to this group. There could be others. Again, obviously it's a Zoom call, so there's really no limit. We'd like to keep it though, 10 is a good number if we can, 8 to 12, just to have a good conversation. But we are going to do a virtual one. It's on the calendar for next week. So, John, maybe I'll work with you to bulk up this list a bit. Bars and restaurants have been a little bit of a struggle, although I've talked personally with 3 owners, including 2 here, a third. I may make another run at a couple of folks here in the next couple of days. But I think this will help fill in some gaps of people we've missed so far. We'll give us a more holistic view. So let me know if there's anything missing on this list as well. And we can certainly, whatever is missing, if there's a significant player at least a player that we think is missing, that hasn't shown up the first in-person ones or this one, we will follow up with a phone call and do a one-on-one interview. We may do some one-on-ones even if you do show up. Business survey also. I just saw a draft in my inbox today. I'll share this with you, John, maybe for a final look. Our goal is to get this out this week. We'll see what this yields. We've gotten some great insights from the hoteliers already about business travel and others, but I'd like to see where this nets us before we decide how to approach the business piece. Hoping to, I think there may be another follow-up interview or 2 with some of the bigger players if we can connect with them. We've tried several times. We'll keep trying, but I think see how this survey gets us here in the next couple of weeks before we decide next steps. But the goal is to deliver insights in this part of the business tourism piece as well as part of this. And for instance, the consortium knows this is coming through Jenny at Karma Labs. For instance, I've talked to her, not heard back from these 2, but we've got some other ideas of sharing this. We're hopeful to get at least a handful of responses that we think we know who some of the major players are just from various discussions, but we want to confirm that with as much data as we can. Speaking of data, so we're working on that's part of this too, and you'll see some new data, new numbers, I think, that are included as appendices or additions to this report that will probably be eye-opening for you. We'll quote them in the report. We've got commitments from The Rock to provide potentially 2 pieces of data. One I'm pretty certain not many people have seen. It's just a recent a visitor study they did, which has pretty stunning numbers in it. But Mike has told me and Steve that they will be giving us that. So we'll be following up on that. I had a brief, more than a brief, but we also had an informal conversation with Mike Zimmerman and Steve Taylor a few weeks ago at the Brello Bar. We talked about things like this. Hoping to follow up on a more formal basis as well. County parks, I got a little bit of data I'll reference here in a second. You will get more. They've got quite a bit. In fact, just did some. They were very proud of it actually at this focus group. The last focus group with some of the data they've gotten using cell phone tracking. Pretty cool. A little Big Brother-ish, but pretty cool. What people are doing, where they are, how many, all that. Croatian Soccer, they're going to be providing some information, but they've given us some really good information, a mix of anecdotally and through data. STR data, I've spoken to Jeff about this. I'll be talking to Vicki about this, trying to come to some level of common ground, where we get data from the local hotels that they're comfortable sharing, without violating any confidentialities and competitive advantages, things like that. So we're working on that. We might want to enlist your help, but we'll talk about that.
We will definitely.
Yeah.
We can actually do a citywide one, and we.
Yeah, so maybe we'll
Citywide
maybe we'll do that. I mean, that might be the best way to do it. And yeah, let's talk about that.
You got it.
And find out how much it costs to purchase that. But I think it'd be valuable data for you all.
More than.
Okay, we should talk about that. I don't want this body to have to think about that, but I think it'd be something to be insightful for sure.
Are you interested in just certain, like the southwest side of Milwaukee, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, I really was interested in. That's a good question. I maybe don't quite. This is a good question for you. Maybe I don't quite 100% know what we're interested in. What I know we're interested in right now is I'd like to know what the two major hotel players in Franklin are doing, what the data shows about room nights and about, again, the who, what, when, where kind of questions. Again, to what level they're comfortable sharing that data. Occupancies, things like that. So that is, at its root, that's where my head is at, is I want to know kind of what's happening there, and supplement that with some anecdotal discussions with those hoteliers. So, like Jeff has been great. I think Vicki has been going to be great. She's aggressive. We just matter of connecting with her. We've played some phone tag, which she was at the last session. So I think there will be some really good anecdotal insights there, but I'd like to level we can get data. So I don't know. Maybe that would be I'd ask you.
I know Laura knows this as well, but you can look at a market like Milwaukee and get parts of it, instead of the entire city, because there is, again, depending on how you're going to use this information, you may want just this section of everything from Oak Creek to the south side of Milwaukee to swing around to New Berlin, and kind of wrap around that way. And I think that's a possibility.
So maybe broaden the reach from just to two, maybe make it all the properties in 3 or 4 communities.
As long as you select enough hotels, Star's okay with it, because then the data set is large enough to really prevent you from zeroing in on property.
That might make it a lot easier. Okay. Got it. Okay.
I can. That's something I have on the page, Franklin's Star, and fill it out enough, and then to do a logical concept where we can share shit from surrounding communities or where we might be. So.
Let's connect on that.
Purchase it and
That'd be great. I mean, I think that would be great. And for this report and just in going forward, I mean, that obviously have that on an ongoing basis for this commission, I think would be helpful to know. But yeah, so that's helpful to know as well. Like maybe we can broaden our search a bit and not just probably make the 2 hoteliers locally more comfortable too, to say, look, we're looking at a little bit broader than just the 2 in Franklin. But so that's a little bit TBD, but we'll make sure that some level of data, STR data, STAR data, in this report or reference for sure. So we'll talk more about that. Visit Milwaukee. We're connecting with them. We'll see. They certainly come out with annual numbers at a region basis, a Milwaukee basis that we can tap into the state of the state. Those are obviously just a Google search away, but we'll reference some of that. But all of this together, I think, the data piece will be helpful, but I really think the biggest help is going to be the conversations, the connections. And that's what we're finding. That's what this is about, these next ones. These are a few examples, right? I mentioned Croatian soccer. So you're going to have 5,000 to 10,000 people in Franklin this weekend. It's their first of 2 major youth soccer tournaments from all around. They'll get teams from all around the upper Midwest. Staying at hotels, I believe at one point he said for one tournament they were looking at almost 15 different hotels across the region. Not as much maybe for this one, but you're going to get, and just do some quick math, right? I think they were talking well over 100 teams, 15 players. The teams are kids, ages 7 to 12. So they're going to have families with them, etc., siblings. Do the math. So this is one example. There's another one in August. Freddie talked about an international tournament that COVID unfortunately took away from them. They'll be back in 5 years, literally international travelers to Franklin and these kind of numbers. I think he quoted us a number at the table that night of 60,000 unique visitors a year to that complex, a lot of them being youth soccer oriented, but not just that. Croatian Fest, World Cup viewing, etc. draws from the region. There's a strong Chicago contingent, etc. that comes up here. So again, it's kind of hidden a bit. I mean, if you live near them, you know, but I think it's something else. It was really eye-opening information for us. And also, just last week, he connected with Laura as well about being the club is accepted to this Elite Academy League, which he says will also draw increased visitors as more high-level teams play from the Upper Midwest as well. So, and they're only growing. They also obviously have the beer garden, other things going on there. So, as far as attracting visitors from the region, they're really growing, and that's something to make note of. And this will again all be borne out in a bit more narrative style in the final report. County parks. I think it was helpful for folks in the room, and I know the city, to be more connected to the county and the county parks. And so you'll have, so in this case, we had 2 high-level leaders at the last focus group. They have followed up a little bit with some high-level data. You can see it here, pretty, obviously very significant numbers. We'll be getting more parsed data to share in the final report, but obviously inside Whitnall is Burner Botanical Gardens and other things, the golf course, sports complex. We think we kind of knew it was a draw, a sports tourism draw here. It is. I was surprised with the Oakwood golf number. It's a big number. Irving Park even. So again, I more to come, but the parks are a huge part of the Franklin story, as you all know. I think this our work is showing that and going to show that going forward. So just a little snapshot here. Lastly, I mentioned the Hampton. One thing that was really interesting to me on the business side is I didn't even think about this, but he's attracting, you know this, there's not really mosquito. Is there a Mosquito Hotel? But anyway, it's not just a Franklin thing. So you know, it's into Waukesha County, northern Racine County. He actually mentioned Manheim Auto Auctions as a big booker of nights, which I'd forgotten about. It's right by 7 Mile Fair. You'll know it as you drive by 94 to the west. But that is a pretty regular, consistent booker of rooms there. So it was interesting to talk about the business side, the business tourism side. It's not surprisingly on the rock weekends, obviously, are going to be busy. I've kind of forgotten. I knew about the Milkman. I'd forgotten about U of Milwaukee as well as a home. I was playing their games here, and you know, if you think about it, I mean, he mentioned Youngstown State. Like, if you have teams coming from Youngstown, Ohio, you have coaches and families and parents and coming from Youngstown, Ohio, and insert other schools, Wright State, Detroit, all these baseball teams in the Horizon League are often being here as well. So again, it's obviously multi-layered, multifaceted what hotels are attracting, but the discussions with these folks are really yielding some really interesting information. Those are just 3 examples, just from the focus groups and conversations. There'll be many more. Those will be fleshed out even more in the final report. So I think it'll be interesting reading. And it's helpful for you to make a decision. So lastly, next steps. I mentioned the final focus group. I'll forward it to you all. We've got to be careful you got to be careful of quorum, but we've already had several attend, so I think we'll be fine. Business survey I mentioned. One-on-one interviews continue. Final report by end of June. So I would say I'm coming back here in June. I'll come back here potentially in July if you'd like me to expand on the report as well. So at least one more visit, give you a bit more information from the report. We'll obviously dwell on our way in a month on what we're doing here. That is all I have. I wonder any questions, comments, concerns. Thank you again for this opportunity.
I would just say I was impressed with the young lady that was running the focus group that I was at.
Izzy graduates on Saturday, so I wish her well.
She kept everything on task. Yes, I mean, obviously you contributed to the questions, but they're relevant questions, and answers, I think, confirmed a lot of things that we as a commission have talked about and we've talked about with Engage Franklin. So I look forward to the final report. I think it was well done, though.
Thank you. No, I'm glad we kind of, it was a pivot to do the focus groups. I think we'd expect to do a lot more one-on-one interviews, but I actually kind of like the interaction piece more, and in the end it helped us get more done quickly too. Yeah. So I think I'm glad we did that, and we'll see how this third one does, but thank you. I'll pass it on to Izzy. She's excited. She's heading to Europe in June for like a month and a half post graduation. So I'm getting every last ounce of work I can out of her before she heads out the door. She needs the money anyways. Her trips.
Do you have the next interns lined up?
I do. So yeah, actually, the firm, it's been quite an interesting month and a half. So we're growing and doing quite well. We're in our second year, year and 3 months old. We have 3 new hires starting this summer, a freshman and 2 soon-to-be sophomore and 2 soon-to-be seniors, starting in a week, actually next week. And then 3 more lined up to start in September for the following school year. School year is 1 freshman, part of that too. So our team's growing quite a bit. We may have as many as 8 people on board in the fall, and really talented students. You met Izzy, super talented group. I went to Marquette in '97. I graduated. Met my wife there. They're way more talented than I was when I graduated. I think they're doing better. They were great when I was there, but they're doing a lot better and just getting people real world experience, experiential learning. That's what we're about. Is delivering, real, high quality first class work you get anywhere, even better than anywhere with this experiential learning piece. So, it's been nice. Thanks for asking. It's been an interesting month though. I've had a lot of lunches and coffees and with students. It's been cool. Other questions?
A comment you asked about additional groups that you wanted to
Yeah.
get into the next focus group. Have you talked to the executive director over at Ware Nature Center?
I have not. I'm gonna add, actually, a good point. I was hoping the parks would deal with that a little bit, but I will add that to the list. I do have that name as well. So I will make sure.
I know I met her a few months ago, and she was commenting how she is trying to position the Ware Nature Center as a regional center, and drawing in people from outside of the area.
At one point, I got in contact information. I will add that person. Invite, or is it a woman?
A woman,
Invite
yes.
her.
I forget her name right now.
Carter. Is it Carly?
Carly Hinz. We'll do that. Yeah, Whitnall Park is obviously not just in Franklin, but we're calling it Franklin for this case, and there's so many different aspects and assets involved with that. Yeah, part of it is right. So we're calling it Franklin. We're calling it all in Franklin for this case. But in that it's also really obviously a very cool, varied park. There's a lot of different attractions and draws, and but Ware is a big one. Other questions?
Good.
Well, thank you. Good to see you in person, and see you again. Do you all meet in June this summer?
We're scheduled to.
Okay, good. I know. I always check like a few days or a week before, but I'll plan on June again, when we can talk if you want to meet more in July. You have a lot to review between then. So again, thank you.
Thank you. Next item, the Engage Franklin Board update.
So the board of directors of Engage Franklin, and I'm gonna invite Laura, who is the executive director, to jump in here anytime. And as I think you all know, I'm on that board as well. We have met twice now as an official board. We had our last meeting on May 8th. At that meeting, Laura presented a template of the financial report that she'll be doing every month. Those monies that came in, monies that went out, that she's been doing. She is collecting 3 total bids for the website. She attended the Sports ETA just last week, right? This was the piece of collateral that was developed for that. Which she did in conjunction with the folks at Oak Creek, and Oak Creek did some of the funding for this. And
All of it.
all the funding. So I'm going to ask her to actually talk about the results of the Sports ETA Symposium. But I'll go ahead and finish this update and then come back to Sports ETA. Laura is going to be joining the Destinations Wisconsin DMO group, Destination Marketing Group. She is keeping a master list of the various things that will be open to us and Engage Franklin going forward. We are developing a mission statement And just as at this meeting, I do an Engage Franklin update. At the Engage Franklin board meetings, I do a tourism commission update. We are planning a community PR initiative, and that will do a lot to address what the two ladies addressed during the citizen comment period, because that will help us to explain to the community, here's what Engage Franklin is, here's what their goal is, here's how they fit with the Tourism Commission, and what the differences are, and what the similarities might be, and how we mesh together. So we're planning to, there's a number of people that are working on that right now. And I know there's been a couple drafts that have been published. They're not available yet to circulate. But the plan is to have some kind of an insert that we can put into the community paper. Do that as soon as we can figure out what to say. And so it's very much moving right now, but it is gelling. And let's see. She's made some great initiatives, some great progress with, in particularly the Greater Milwaukee Golf Show. Next March is going to be at the Mosh Performing Arts or Performance Center in the top floor of Lux. And so there will be vendors coming in and guests that we know will be staying at, hopefully, the Hampton or the place across the street. So that will be drawing people, and I think that's a good win for us. We can hang a lot of progress on it. If you want to talk about sports ETA now.
Awesome. So we had a great time. It was more successful than I even thought. I was used to going there representing Central Wisconsin that was far away from airports and had little to nothing to sell. So I was thrilled to have all of my 15 appointments. There were 15 scheduled appointments and lots of other conversations, lunch, and all those things, right? I'd say, just to share with you, our top RFPs, the people who are requesting that we submit proposals and very heavily doing so, is 3v3 Live National Soccer. I reached out to Freddie. It's a week-long soccer tournament. Amazing. He said he's not sure if he can handle it this year, but obviously we'll look into it for the future. Mars Turf Wars kickball. It's turf kickball. So, and it happens into the fall, right? So once the season wraps up at Rock League Baseball, our quadplex is extremely desirable. Right? And so it gets a lot. They have millions of followers on social media, and they have heavy following with ESPN. So it would be highly televised, and they're very interested. There's a mud girl. You've probably heard of it. I think they did whatever the other female mud race was over at the Rock before. So the fact that they have experience hosting it and they're willing to do it again, the mud girl is extremely interested in coming. Quad ball, U.S. quad ball, super interesting. It's actually Harry Potter Quidditch. Read or watch that on the movies, but they do it on land. Who knew, right? But you can fit about 3 Quidditch fields on a full-size soccer field. They're very interested in coming to play. There are actually 2 quad ball associations in the U.S. They're not. And the Can-Am Police Fire Games Federation, they do basically up to 30 different events, and it's all rescue workers coming from not just all over the U.S., but Canada as well. Some coming from Europe. It's a large event that the gentleman is extremely interested in Wisconsin by no way of me selling him. He just loves golf. And he's a scratch golfer and wants to experience it all. So he's from Canada, and so he's the decision maker and says, bring me to Wisconsin. So that one's for 2028 because it's such a large undertaking. But I think we're up for this. United Soccer Coaches want to come and do some educational programming in Franklin. Let's see here. And, of course, all of the baseball people are lined up around the ball. It's a matter of finding some time if they can make it work. Turnkey basketball and tech ball, which is a European sport that's similar to, like, table soccer on a curved table. The actual, like, put your hand. Very odd. But it's and people all over the world come. So those are the ones that we'll be sending out RFPs for in the next 3 to 6 months, depending on the timing. So it was extremely lucrative. I'm certain that we can produce at least 3 events that'll be of quality. It's truly just a matter of finding times that fit for us that we're not already too busy. Because, people were extremely our venues are top notch, especially compared to a lot of aging venues or communities that have just travel airport. So it's great. Super encouraging. So like the golf show, we'll probably be able to produce 2 or 3 events that'll bring people in by the thousands versus 1 or the 2 or the.
Yeah, very well done, collateral. So was this the, let me just review this again, this was handed out, or this was the piece that you went to the conference with?
Yeah. We had our little mini dates, right? So we had 10 minutes to sit down, ask what they needed, show them what we had, and develop enough interest so that we could get the RFP in our inbox, right? So that was the goal, and those were the RFPs that they asked. They reached out to us for, the ones I just. Oak Creek is thrilled, by the way, at the partnership so far. By Oak Creek, I mean Andrew Vickers and Paula, who went with me. They're very excited to just be a player, you know, and to know that when these things come, that they're going to be the first other hotels that get filled, right? Because knowing that these are going to fill much more. So they're happy to be players, will continue to be players, so much so that they actually sponsored my participation in the event, because we didn't have the funding just yet in time, so they sponsored my participation in the event, the design, and the printing.
I've noticed on the list of all the facilities, there's only one, Mill Creek. So that was still very nice of them to be such a
Very
wonderful
nice.
sponsor.
And they admittedly so said that they didn't want to put forth anything that wasn't their best, right? So facilities-wise, you know, they had one that they felt like could really level up to this opportunity. But if you look on the back, the other assets in the community where we mentioned parks and we mentioned, you know, those types of things, they have like Lake Vistas in there and, you know, different things like that too, because we want those people to understand that when they're coming to Franklin for an event like this, that participants and the families have other things to do.
I think that was a nice addition, and it checks with what data was from the people that came to the focus groups. When they come to these events, they're not going to stay up at the rock ball fields all day. Come and want to eat someplace, go someplace, play 9 holes of golf, something. So I think it's good to have that in here, even though this was meant for us.
It's easier to sell people on their tournament if cool destination all around, right?
So, Oak Creek, lakefront in Oak Creek, and they have beaches and parks. Things like
It's
that.
small. It's
Small.
small. So like if we wanted to host like a triathlon, that wouldn't be, you know what I
Right.
mean? Things
No,
like
it's
that.
just an
But for
alternative.
recreation.
Right,
Yeah.
it's something else for people to do.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be an opportunity to list that actually in the future. That's a good call because people love it when they see shore and water, right?
Right.
And it's one of our biggest assets when we partner with them. Good call on that.
One other thing to point out about the Gage Franklin board, one of the critical things that the board has made it a critical item is the contract between Gage Franklin and Tourism. And that's what leads to item number 6. We'll talk about that more in that section. But that is a critical driving thing that we need to get resolved soon. And part of that is just because of the timing of it's going to have to go to Common Council, it's going to have to go to Gage Franklin board again, that kind of thing.
Part of what is also kind of holding up my finalized draft of the PR initiative, because I would absolutely love to be able to not necessarily give the details of it, but to let everybody know that we are an official partnership. You know what I mean? I feel like that really would speak volumes to residents in knowing that it is a formal partnership and how it works.
Yeah, right now we're kind of making it up every time we talk.
I know, yeah. Our elevator speech is a little shaky. We try hard though.
Yeah, I think by and large we've been in sync all the way through,
For sure.
but we do need to resolve that.
Okay. Laura, anything else?
Just that I'm thrilled that what happened today happened today because I want you guys to understand that long-term partnership, hopefully, that those are the types of things that you can delegate to Gage Franklin, right? Because it has to do with attracting Franklin and it has to do with, being a full destination for people. That's what we're all about. So we can certainly, we're thrilled to handle that. The idea of them bringing in vendors from around the, even just the region, the state, to the country, the world, that's why we exist. So,
Right, good point.
yeah, so if if that says anything, it's just, I'd like you to know that that could be repeated over and over and over.
And I said this at the focus group too, one of the challenges we've had is our focus has always been heads and beds. And we're not sure that the Makers Festival is going to result in heads and beds. But it is something that's resulting in tourism coming into Franklin, which feeds into the research that Eric's been doing.
Well, and for example, I was contacted by the AA Pro League for the All-Star Game, right, that is being hosted over there. I'm going to be putting together welcome bags for anybody coming from out of town, right? So, for example, when they have that plan, I'd love to insert something into all the welcome bags. Those types of collaborative opportunities are literally everywhere you look. So we want to be the hub for that, so that we can be the connecting for all these small and interesting and cool things that are happening. We want to be a centralized place where people can go from both from out of town and because I think it's important to be like a tourist in town as well. See things with a new, fresh.
No, I like Mark. I think what that demonstrates is that one of the greatest opportunities is just having the assets all in one handy location.
Absolutely,
and have somebody that can follow up in an inquiry. That's we first came to town years ago. That was one of the things, everyone's doing their own thing, but
Right.
we're like these two ladies are trying to do. Hey, listen, get something a little broader vision. Like to see if hotels would participate in restaurants. You have to do a lot of legwork to put that together. Vicious.
On that list of all the rights holders at Sports ETA, they don't deal with hotel, venue. They deal with the DMO, right? They deal with the one centralized location that can be the pinwheel for all of the needs that they have. Otherwise, they don't even consider, right?
Ready to move on to agenda item number 6. So, how do we want to proceed with this discussion? Are we going to want to move right into closed session to be able to talk about?
That's my recommendation, because it's an agreement that right now between us and our attorney, so it's public, should be done.
Someone needs to read off the passage,
I'll be happy to do that.
and then we need a motion.
Move into closed session.
I'll make a motion that we enter closed session. He has to read it first? Okay.
The Tourism Commission may enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin
It'll open
statute.
back up in a while.
To deliberate upon the Franklin Field naming rights agreement, Franklin Tourism and Milwaukee Milkmen Baseball LLC, effective July 1st, 2020, and a proposed tourism entity agreement between the Franklin Tourism Commission and Engage Franklin, the negotiation of provisions and terms, and the investing of public funds in relation thereto for competitive or bargaining reasons, and to enter upon open session at the same time, same place thereafter, to act on such matters discussed therein. So, can I entertain a motion?
I move that we enter closed session.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now having returned from closed session. We're now on agenda item number 7, voucher approvals. No vouchers? That makes it next meeting.
Our next scheduled 21st.
21st at 6 p.m. Our next meeting.
So I will try to schedule a special meeting earlier in the month.
All right.
And that'll still need to be posted,
Correct, yeah, it'll be just the standard meeting format. We're holding a special meeting. It'll be noticed at least 2 days in advance. try for a week.
Have any opposition moving to next agenda item adjournment?
We adjourn.
All right. All those in favor?
I
We are adjourned.